Good lord. I'm laughing because of this video. I just clicked on this shit. Why we go cold on our partners? Just out of curiosity. And then I fucking see this. Oh, I should 100% subscribe to TED. Hold on.
Existen riesgos al comprar drogas como heroína, cocaína, crack y pastillas en la calle. Pero sabía.
Oh, fuck off. Okay, look, daddy issues. Oh my god, I just got this fucking advertisement about girls putting us to their test when they just like stop texting you, they become a little colder. They're losing interest because you're a man and you failed their test. If you fail this test, it must mean that we must see you as, since this is, and it's actually true because people, I mean, I've learned humans see patterns and habits and just commonalities. They see it and then they devalue it almost. And so if you're just like everybody else, you're not gonna stand out. I don't know. It didn't get to the point. It wanted me to watch a whole video. I clicked on the link. I was watching like 10 seconds of the video. I already lost interest in the video. It's so boring. It's just so boring. It's crazy. Like, but the thing is, I obviously wouldn't lose interest in the person I like. But it's like, for them to be your partner, how could you never like them? And why would you go cold? Just communicate. Just try to make it work, right? Just try to make it work.
Story of
Okay, the desktop audio is working. But just make it work, right? Like, if you like the person, you must like them to become partners, right? So why go cold? Because I don't go cold on a person I like. And it's just like, why? Why are women like that? Like, it's just like, why are you guys so good at just, it's just so simple to you guys. It comes so simple to you that you notice these patterns of men. Because 99% of the people in your DMs are going to be coming in there on some nice guy shit. It's like, fuck. I'm not a nice guy. I'm a good guy. Because a nice guy, which I actually already watched the video, but I completely want to watch it again because it taught me a lot of things about being a nice guy. It's not on here. I can't find it, but we'll definitely watch it if it pops up. I'm really liking the suggested bar. The suggested bar is hot right now. It's on fire. You guys couldn't even see the screen when I was like scrolling down. But it's just crazy. I don't know. I mean, humans are very complex, but it just seems to me that men don't do this very much. Seems for some weird reason we're just much more simple, I feel. Still being complex, but in relation to women and in our connection and our relationships with each other, it just seems like there's a lot more complexity with the women, right? Of course, I don't think it's impossible for a man to go cold on their partner. I'm sure many of us have. Of course, I speak from experience. Like me, I wouldn't, right? I don't go cold. But then that makes me, what's the word? What's the word? What's the word? What's the word? You're predictable. It makes me predictable. Therefore, I'm not as attractive as I could be. Because girls don't like patterns, I think. They just don't want you to be a part of the pattern. You got to be different. You got to be spontaneous. Damn. But it's like, you got to change yourself then? Because what if you're just genuinely nice? And see, I'm willing to make, it doesn't need to be a complete overhaul. I already talked to somebody about this. It's okay, completely okay, I believe, to make slight adjustments when necessary. And I think that that's all that's really necessary a lot of the time. It's just those slight adjustments. I don't think to do what's necessary to pass that test, to be different, I don't think it's a complete overhaul. I think it might just be a slight adjustment that needs to be made. So then that way, us guys, we don't have to necessarily feel like what I was about to feel just a few seconds ago, where it's just, I was like, man, fuck. Like, why do we have to go and completely change ourselves for a woman to even accept us? Like, it's just like, but I don't think it's completely changing yourself now that I come to think about it. It couldn't be. I mean, I remember Jenna Marbles made a video like good guys do not finish last. And that was in relation to, I think it was in Vsauce video where he was talking about it. There's definitely a lot to understand there. People should know this. Because otherwise you got people who are just going to be stuck in that constant loop because they genuinely believe nice guys finish last. And it's like, that seems like an oversimplification. Because it's not just that nice guys finish last. Of course, any guy could finish last. You could be a douche and finish last. You could be a fucking nice guy and finish last. You very well could be. But it's just like, you got to be compatible with the person. You got to know what's going on here. But anyways, I've been jabbering for 6 minutes. Good. Oh, man, I don't know. I've been fucking up. I'm sorry. I've really been fucking up recently. Let's just go. School of Life.
The path to coldness in The story of the path to coldness in love is well known. We start off full of affection for one another, and then, with time, feelings fade. We start prioritizing work. We check our phones while they're speaking. We don't especially want to hear how their day went.
I don't do that.
There's a popular surface explanation for this kind of emotional frost. That people naturally get bored of one another, in the same way as they get bored with everything else. The gadget that once seemed so amazing.
Oh, for fuck's sakes, I don't do this. I don't recall. When did I get bored of somebody? I don't recall it, you fuckers. You're telling me this. Oh my god, you fuckers, you people. I swear I don't do that. Why don't I do that? I might as well do that. Like, please let me do that. Because otherwise I'd lose there. Because I'd be the one who's not losing, like, attraction, right? I'm being consistent and actually loving the person while they're over there just getting bored. But let's hear them out. Because I don't think you're always just going to get bored. Like I said, communication might just solve it all. At least, please, just let it be true. Please. I mean, some things just can't always be lost hopes, right? Like, let there be a fucking thing, man. And I'm all about communication. I know how important it is. People don't communicate a lot of the times. You know, you got to ask, okay, do you feel bored? Like, do you want to spice it up? See, that's an example right there of how communication could solve that. Like, why are you getting bored? Well, for anybody that I feel has gotten bored, I didn't ask them. Of me, personally. I didn't ask.
Bored with everything else.
But now that I know it, like, I mean, I feel like I've known for a minute, though, that communication is good. But now, come to think about it, I don't think I ever asked. I don't think I ever asked.
The gadget that once seemed so amazing. The film they used to love. Going cold is, in this story, simply the unavoidable consequence of familiarity. But there's another explanation, darker at first.
Oh, but how does that look? What does that look like? Wherein I'm like a good person, and if I'm spontaneous and not familiarizing, so what do? Of course, I can be a freak. You know me. Freak on the court, freak on the sheets. I'm kidding. I'm not a freak on the court. I'm a freak in video games, and a freak in the sheets. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let me stop. But what's spontaneity? How do you spice it up? Give me an example. Spice up the personality. Like, try being a dickhead? No, because that's polar opposites. Why am I going straight to polar opposites? Try being aggressive, being passive. Try silence. Try. I don't know, maybe he'll talk about it.
But in the end, more hopeful. The loss of interest isn't either natural or inevitable. The boredom is something at once more complicated and more active. It exists because we feel hurt by angry with, or scared of our partner, and because we haven't found a cathartic way to tell ourselves or them about it. Tuning out isn't inevitable, it's a symptom of disavowed emotional distress. It's a way of coping. We're internally numbed, not just a touch bored. This can sound strange. After all, we might have no active sense that our partner has been hurting, angering, or frightening us. The idea appears laughable or extreme. It makes our partners sound like monsters or ourselves like weaklings, neither of which is true. But the self that loves within a relationship is not the normal adult self we know from other zones of our lives. We may mostly be hugely resourceful and resilient, but the person who loves is an infinitely more vulnerable being. We should imagine it like a smaller, younger, more defenseless version of ourselves that lives in our heads and is no tougher and not much wiser than we were as babies, which is when so many of our...
Oh, and you know what's worse? When people, like, try to neglect this person and they try to hide away this thing. And then does it become their shadow? No, because some motherfuckers are so closed off. I don't even know if they're self-sabotage. They're just closed off. Or maybe there is self-sabotage. Oh! There is self-sabotage. This girl's self-sabotage. This little black girl that I'm looking at here, that they're presenting as being the being within the being that's supposed to be, you can imagine it being young or whatever. It's self-sabotage as well. That's why they start talking to somebody. They like him and they lose interest. We're too complex. And why mostly with women? Why mostly with women? What are we doing to women? What are women experiencing? Are they more susceptible, more vulnerable to something? Is it the experience? Like, fuck. We need to restructure society. What is it? Because I know we've all seen the TikToks. I liked him. He was nice. He was lovely. I lost interest. Oh, and then you have like the guy reposting it in a hoodie, like, and then he just puts like a word on the screen, damn, period, and then it's just like sad music. That's exactly what that is. It's self-sabotage. Because maybe is the self-sabotage them not wanting, or them trying to be close off the person inside of them that is willing to love, more vulnerable, and then they don't like the fact that there's a vulnerable thing inside of them, so they completely try to close it off, but they can't completely close it off, so maybe they'll go and they'll actually talk to the guy, but then the further you get into that talking, even if the guy is great, you self-sabotage. But then the self-sabotage would come from the opposite. The self-sabotage would be conscious, wouldn't it? Because the your inner self would be the self that's trying to love, that you're just trying to get rid of for whatever reason. You have a reason. You had a rough childhood, shitty experience that fucked up your ability to ever want to be vulnerable, whatever. Things like that, right? So you close off the part of you that wants to love. So the shadow becomes the part of you that wants to love. So you'd be like the example we saw in that one video, you'd be the girl that just never wants to date anybody, doesn't want to do anything. But the shadow will come. But then the shadow would then come and then hook you up. It would make you download a Tinder app after all. And you'd be like, why did I do that? Or maybe it would make you go up and talk to this person. Or flirt with this person. Or be attracted to this person or this idea of you being in a relationship with this person. I don't like, how would that work? How would the self-sabotage work if the thing you're trying to, if the shadow would becomes the part of you that loves? How does that even work? You're repressing love, but it's slowly like creeping out, presenting itself here and there. Hey, still here. So then maybe the sabotage action would be just talking to the guy in the first place. But then it's done self-sabotaging, and then you're back. And then you're like, oh, lost interest. I'm back. And then the self-sabotaging was the action of going up to this dude in the first place and talking to him. That was the self-sabotaging action there. So then it wouldn't be backwards then. So then I'm tripping. So like, it wouldn't be backwards. It would just be, I am going to talk to this person. Don't know why. I already know I'm mentally unstable, but I want to do it anyway. Something in me felt like I wanted to do it. So I do it. Yeah, that's how it works. It's 100% how it works, right? It has to be.
Needs for and ideas about love were formed. It's this vulnerable self that continues to direct our hearts, even if we're 6'2" with a pointy beard. The loving self has a gossamer thin ego. It gets hurt, frightened and upset with desperate ease. You could deeply distress it by interrupting it during a story it's telling you about the sandwich it had for lunch, by not asking it enough about the little spot it got on its arm yesterday, by preferring a book to cuddling, or being a bit tricky about what channel it should watch on TV. Of course, these are, by ordinary adult standards, tiny slights. But we don't love by adult standards. These small arrows are enough to wound the self that loves to its tender emotional core. Ideally, of course, the small self would at once point out what's happened. It would carefully explain that it had been frustrated and hurt. Its voice would be measured, undefensive, and charming. But mostly, it just stays silent. That's forgivable. It doesn't properly understand what's wrong. It just knows it's in pain and is driven by an instinct to withdraw and protect itself, which translates into behavior that looks pretty cold. If the adult self had to give voice to the loving self's upset, it could sound...
Oh, so you're looking at the woman. Or, no, not the woman, because it wouldn't be... The cold person isn't by default a woman. I'm tripping. Fuck. There is no the woman. This can be both. Genders can do this. Obviously. So the person became cold because you didn't ask them enough about their spot. You didn't reading a book instead of cuddling. Oh, but there's no way to know. How do you know? How do you ask? How did you actually go about asking this? The other person might not even know. If I were to be like, hey, like, you can't do that. Hi, how can I stop your shadow self from coming? How can I stop that part of you that's a little fragile and vulnerable? That loving thing inside of you. What does it want? Am I not doing something for it? You can't ask that. They wouldn't know. They simply wouldn't know. They would just feel like there's no way to word that, right? Like, there's no way you can consciously understand that and word it perfectly. There's no way, right?
Feel absurd, which is partly why it doesn't.
So then you're fucked. Like, can you counter this? No, right? So then at this point, you just have to hope that you're just doing great. Because then if you're not doing great, can you even communicate for this? I don't know.
There can be something especially humiliating in having to say, I don't feel you took enough interest in the details of my lunch break. Or,
oh,
I'm
yeah,
45
absolutely.
years old, but not capable of sharing a TV remote control. These truly are small issues for an adult to dwell on, but the parts of us that make themselves vulnerable in love don't obey.
Oh
the
my God, that is so
rule.
true.
The consequence
I
is
feel
that
that
the loving self dries up. It doesn't want to have sex. It gets sarcastic and irritable, but it doesn't even know why it's like this. It isn't.
Excuse me?
The loving self dries up.
The loving self
doesn't
dries
want to
up.
have sex. It gets sarcastic and irritable, but it doesn't even know why it's like this. It isn't putting on an act. It's confused. To learn to cope, we need a prominent mutual awareness and forgiveness of this dynamic of sensitivity and distress, and a commitment to decode it when disengagement and indifference descend. We have to create a forum in which so-called minor, love-sapping hurts can safely be aired, without the other dismissing, as they always so easily can, the issues at stake as childish or imagined. The touchiness of the loving self is ridiculous, if judged by the more robust standards of the rest of life. But this is not the rest of life. When we've gone cold, we may not truly have lost interest in our partners. We might just need an opportunity to imagine that we are quietly, really rather hurt and furious with them. And we should have access to a safe forum in which our tender but critical feelings can be aired, purged, and understood without risk of humiliation.
Oh, I don't like that. Oh, I don't like that. That did not seem as promising as I wanted it to be. I feel like I'm back at square one. No, because, I always like to intervene. I always like to get involved. I can't ask somebody about that. I have to just let it be. Because, my situation right now would be... Am I really about to just openly say my situation? Okay, so let's say I like a girl. And I really like this girl. But she doesn't feel the same. Like, she would argue, she's just like, oh, I'm not looking for a boyfriend. Even though I haven't really asked to be her boyfriend. Like, I haven't asked that either. Like, I'm not necessarily saying I want a girlfriend right now, but I really like this girl. I love her, right? Wait, how do I go explain that? But, like, it's just like, I don't see how I can apply this. I'm going to create a forum in which a so-called minor love-sucking hearts can safely be aired, so that's why they take time and they seem distant. A commitment to decode it when disengagement and indifference descend. I would be totally dedicated to decode it. Absolutely.
In which so-called minor, love-sapping hurts can safely be aired, without the other dismissing, as they always so easily can, the issues at stake as childish or imagined. The touchiness of the loving self
but how? But you can't do anything.
If judged.
You can't do anything. Because how could the other person know you're not going to humiliate them? I swear I'm not. But the other person, how could they know? Maybe every person they've opened up to has humiliated them. How could they know I'm not? Like, please open up to me. But it's just like, how can you? It's horrible. It's a tragedy. Sometimes reality is a tragedy. Because it's just like, oh, it's one of those, oh, man. It's just an, oh, man moment. Like, we're just too complex sometimes, man. It's just like, fuck, I just want to love you. It's like, why are you so complex? It's like, it's like, damn it. It's like, what can I do? Like, let me do something. I don't like, sometimes I don't like things being out of my control, which is like super left field for me. Because I understand, right? Things are out of my control. But one thing that I guess I haven't gotten over is I do want things to be out of my control. I completely accept when it's out of my control. Except when it's something like this for some reason, right? It's just like, I'm not fully convinced that it's fully out of my control because I can act on this, right? I can go and communicate, try to ask, do something to try to see if maybe I can get this out of them. I could try to maybe understand what's going on in their brain, if they have any. But to do that, they'd have to also know what's going on in their own, and I personally know that that's very hard. So not only do they have to really understand what's going on in there, and it's hard to do. I wouldn't even say that I know exactly what's going on in my brain a lot of the time. So they'd have to know. And then they'd have to be willing to share that with you. Which, okay, that's harder. Because they might feel you might humiliate them. It's like, damn. I don't know. How do I end this video? How do I end it on a good note? we've gone cold and do this. But I mean, at least we may naturally, yeah, that's promising. I guess we could go out on that, don't lose hope. It's not like he said, it's not inevitable. I know at some point he said it's not inevitable. It's not necessarily something that's going to happen, but damn. I guess right now I'm just going to have to be pondering and try to brainstorm, how can I stop? How could I go about possibly interfering with this? And should I? Like, it doesn't matter if I should. Of course you're gonna want to. Say you love somebody, man. Like, of course you're gonna want to try to like help them out. Like, especially if you know this stuff, you're gonna be like, okay, let me explain to you what I know about psychology. Could I be like, let me explain to you what I know about psychology? So I know that we do this. Here's our shadow self. Here's whatever else we've learned about psychology, right? Right now in the channel, we've only learned about the shadow self and self-sabotage. Of course, I know a little bit more. I'm sure everybody else knows a little bit more. So it's like, okay, maybe you don't know about this. Let me explain this to you. Let me explain to you what it is. Maybe now that you have knowledge, maybe you can use this knowledge to better understand yourself. And then when you better understand yourself, maybe you can help me out. Maybe we can communicate. And then we can figure this out. And then we don't have to be so cold to each other. Maybe you don't have to go cold with me. Because I've noticed you've been cold. And I know you've noticed it too. But maybe you don't know why you're being cold. It might be this. Could that help? Could that be a solution? I don't know. Could that be like around getting to a solution? I don't know, but it's something to think about. I'm gonna end the video right there. It's 26. Good. Fucking, it's a 5-minute video. How have I done that? I'm done. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.